All right, welcome to the Ironwood Gym. Today I'm going to go over, or I'm going to continue that Is It Cheating series. Hopefully you've had a chance to catch those other 3 videos that came out already, and the first one covered the sumo deadlift and why people are so upset about lifters following the rules, just moving their feet out a little bit wider, but still within the rules. Second one went over arching and the bench press, same deal. Everyone's so frantic and upset because someone takes an arch and allows them to lift a little bit more weight, but within the rules, and really if you understand it, they don't lift that much more weight. And then the third one went over utilizing gear and powerlifting, again, within the rules of the sport. And some of those rules are pretty strict as far as what you can use and what you can't use. Other federations are a little bit more loose, but everything is covered within the rules. So you have to question, is it actually cheating or not? So today, I'm gonna kind of change the tone of this a little bit and talk about steroids. So I'm not going to get super in-depth as to what steroids do and how they work, and some of this stuff I don't even understand, so it would be pointless for me to talk about it. But just as in the notion of whether steroids are cheating or are they not cheating, because people get so sensitive over these things and they just like to bash people and tear them down because they think that they use steroids or didn't, or maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but a lot of times people don't even have any evidence, concrete evidence, as to whether they actually did or not, and they just want to call them cheaters. So gonna look at it a little bit closely as to whether it actually is cheating or not. Again, this is gonna take a different tone. The reason why it's gonna take a different tone is because I'm gonna have to use my notes on this to look at some of these dates, but steroids actually became illegal in 1990. All right, so prior to 1990, as far as being utilized, not necessarily within certain sports, because every sport, governing body, the governing bodies of each sport, NCAA, which covers many sports, they set their own rules. Okay, and they can decide whether something is legal in their sport or not. But as far as the government is concerned, steroids became illegal in 1990. A law was actually passed that year, which made them illegal and made them a controlled substance. That's a whole issue in and of itself as to whether the government should have that power or not, which is not going to be entertained in this video. At some point I will make a video on that. But as far as this video goes, from that point alone, you could say that since 1990, if you're utilizing steroids, it's cheating, okay? But then I think we need to pinpoint some other rules that have came about within each sport, and then this to me is a more complicated issue. All right, so let's start out, and the hot button issue on this has been for many years baseball. Okay, and if you remember back to the early to mid 2000s was around the time that no one really cared. If we go back to 1998, okay, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, Ken Griffey Jr. had this huge home run race. Balls flying out of the park left and right. Ends up Mark McGwire sets the record at 70 home runs, breaking Babe Ruth's record, or Roger Maris's record, of 61. So he beat it by 9. Sammy Sosa also beat it. I believe he had 66 that year. And Ken Griffey Jr. ended up with 50 something. I don't remember where he ended up at. But at no other point in time in baseball had we seen home runs hit in that manner or at that level. So But at that point in time, no one cared. Okay. And if you had been around lifting and you'd been around steroids, it was obvious that there was something going on here. Baseball didn't seem to care. The fans didn't care. But it was pretty obvious. And it wasn't, it was obvious that it was more than just lifting weights, because these athletes had grown so much so fast, and some people lift weights forever and never accomplish the size that some of these athletes had accomplished. So it should have been obvious, but what was people cared about was how exciting baseball was at that time. Okay. So fast forward a few years. I mean, we got a few more things going on. McGwire hits over 60 again. Sosa hits over 60 like 2 more times, I think, or 3 more times. I can't remember. Barry Bonds in 2001, I believe, hits 73 home runs. Okay, so he's hitting balls out of the park left and right. He's blown up in size. And this just keeps going. Then all of a sudden, everyone becomes upset about it because Jose Canseco writes a book. Okay, Jose Canseco, one of the Bash brothers from the early to mid 90s, writes a book and claims that there's rampant steroid use in baseball. Up until that time, no one cared. That book, I don't remember the entire name of the book. I remember it was the main, what everyone talked about was Juiced. Okay. Then there was there was some smaller prints underneath that should have been included with the title. But he makes these claims that everyone's using steroids, and all of a sudden it's a big issue. Such a big issue that Congress gets involved, which is kind of ridiculous that they're involved with what's going on in baseball. But Congress gets involved, and then baseball creates a testing plan. Up until that time, baseball had not tested their athletes. Now, a lot of people like to say, well, McGwire wasn't cheating because steroids weren't illegal. Yes, they were illegal at that time in baseball. They were illegal in the country, but they're also illegal in baseball because in 1991, baseball banned steroids. However, they had no plan to test for it. So they just, whatever the players did, they did. They weren't going to get caught because baseball wasn't going to test them. So that really begs, it really makes you wonder or question whether it was illegal or not. If baseball wasn't bothering to test for their rule, technically steroids were illegal in baseball, but if there's no testing protocols, then there's no enforcement protocols. Then is it really illegal? It's kind of like one of those things, yeah, don't do it, but I'll just turn my head and let you do it. It's kind of one of those type of things. So that's baseball. Football banned steroids actually in 1983. So if you were utilizing football or playing football, you would have been breaking the rules if you were using steroids in 1983 when steroids were actually legal in the United States. Okay, and football didn't bother to start testing though until 1989. So you can see where this problem is that these sports are banning these drugs, but they're not creating testing protocols. They're not creating a testing program. So essentially they don't care. They're just putting these rules out there to say, hey, we passed a rule, can't use it, but go ahead because we're not going to test you. So then, again, is it really cheating if they're not going to bother to test? NCAA actually banned steroids in 1973. I do not know when they started testing. I would assume that, knowing the NCAA, but I didn't know them back then, knowing the way things work now, they probably would have implemented something fairly soon. Okay, so now let's look at some of the, let's look at powerlifting, okay? So in powerlifting, depending upon which federation you lift in, will determine whether they're actually illegal or not. So if you, some federations have testing protocols, and they will say the certain number of the top finishers in each weight division, or a certain percentage of weight divisions after the meet, will be tested, and they follow up on those. So in those sports, you would have to say, or in those federations, you would have to say that testing would be illegal, because they've stated it in the rules that it is illegal, and they have testing protocols to follow up with that. However, other federations, they have tested divisions, drug tested divisions, which in the rules for the drug tested divisions state that you cannot use steroids. But then there are also untested divisions. In those rule books, there is no mention of steroids or not. The only rule is that there will not be drug testing. So in that sense, in a federation which has a rule that states there will not be drug testing, essentially steroids are legal. Okay, so if you want to lift in that federation, it's perfectly legal if you're utilizing steroids, except for the fact that the United States has a law stating that steroids are illegal. So it's legal, but it's illegal. So what is it? Okay, so it's not cheating to lift in a federation, a powerlifting federation, that says this is an non-drug tested division. On some federations, I think the whole federation is. This is non-drug tested. There are no rules for banned substances. It's just non-tested. So that's not cheating. But then the United States comes in and says it's illegal by United States law, federal law. So then it is cheating or it isn't cheating. Hopefully you get where I'm going with this. You know, this is a much trickier topic as far as whether it is actually cheating or not cheating. So I guess that's really where I'm going to have to leave it, is that we have rules, we put rules in place, but we don't have any enforcement of the rules. So then is it cheating? Then we create enforcement of the rules. So then it definitely is cheating. But then we also have a federal law stating that they're illegal. So this one's, I think, a trickier one that I can't actually say it's illegal or legal unless you're lifting or competing in a sport or lifting in a federation that states they are illegal. And then in that case, if you're using them, it is definitely cheating. If you're trying to skirt around the rules, if you're trying to cheat the tests, then it would be cheating. But again, even in those situations where it's not, you always have that cloud above your head where the federal government has said that steroids are illegal. So that is it for today's discussion. This probably didn't clear anything up, unfortunately. Until Congress finally removes that law stating that steroids are illegal, it is going to be difficult to determine, really, whether utilizing steroids is cheating or not cheating. Please check my other videos out on Is It Cheating? I do give clear answers in those, and some of the situations are a little bit, I changed some things up to make you think a little bit on it. So check those other videos out. Check that Is It Cheating Sumo Deadlift, Is It Cheating the Bench Press Arch, and Is It Cheating gear, or powerlifting gear. Check those videos out. Hopefully you can get something out of them. Hopefully you can either change your thought process or confirm your thought process, who knows. And if you like what you're seeing, hit that like button. Also, please subscribe to the channel. Okay, subscribe to the channel. I've got several videos out now. Check them all out. And then if you do like what you're seeing, or if you think you know someone that could get something out of this, please share it with them. Share it with those lifters that you know. Share it with those coaches that you know that you think can get something out of this, so they can check this stuff out and they can try to learn from it as well. Till next time, always in the pursuit of strength, stay strong, and check back in for the next video.